Massie, where we don't have somebody that's going to be willing to put millions upon millions of dollars behind him like we had somebody do for Trump and people do for Kamala Harris. If Massie can't get that donor support, he's kind of cooked in the current stage of politics.
Welcome back. And joining me now is Democratic Congressman Ro Khanna of California. Congressman Khanna, welcome back to Meet the Press.
Thank you for having me on, Kristen.
Thank you for coming back. I do want to start off by talking about Iran. As I was just discussing with Congressman Massie, President Trump has said that they may be close to reaching a short-term deal on Iran. Would you be supportive of a short-term deal that doesn't directly address the nuclear program but allows for more negotiations?
Kristen, on this Memorial Day, let me just begin by paying tribute to the men and women who made the ultimate sacrifice and gratitude to their families. The answer to your question is yes, I do believe we need a negotiated deal. Thomas Massie and I, as he mentioned, actually had the Iran War Powers Act 2 months ago. We would have avoided this war. Food prices wouldn't have gone up. Gas prices wouldn't have gone up, and we could have done this negotiation. But I've always said that I would support negotiation, and it's time for this war to end.
Well, let me ask you about the War Powers Act, because House Republican leaders abruptly canceled a vote to limit President Trump's war powers in Iran. It came just days after the Senate voted for the first time to advance a similar measure. Do you believe there are now enough votes to pass the War Powers Act in the House?
Kristen, I do. It was a bit surreal last week. I mean, first they delayed the vote by 45 minutes to 60 minutes, and then they just pulled the vote. And the reason is that now, unlike when Thomas and I introduced the resolution, there are a lot of Republicans who believe the war should end. They've talked to farmers who say the price of nitrogen, ammonia, urea are through the roof because of the blockades and control of the Strait of Hormuz. They know that the price of gas is up, the price of diesel is up, and they're hearing it from their constituents. So this is putting pressure on Trump to get a negotiation. And it's why Congress matters. Even when we don't get a vote through, we do put pressure on the president. Hopefully this war ends. And I've always said I would support a negotiated end to the war.
All right, well, let's talk about Congressman Massie. You've worked closely with him, including to push for the release of the Epstein files. Congressman Khanna, what was your reaction to his defeat this week?
Sadness, disappointment. Thomas is a real friend. He's a good man. And he was taken out for two reasons. One, he had the courage to go after some very powerful people in working with me to get the Epstein Transparency Act passed. As he mentioned, that's historic bipartisan legislation that finally got justice for the survivors. And
that's why Thomas Massie is like the realest conservative. Why? Because he went against his, be real with you, he went against his better judgment. And the reason why I say his better judgment is because, let's be real, he knew he was sinking his political stock with the Republicans pushing for the Epstein Transparency Act, because they were trying to stop this man. Every time they pulled him to the side and realized that they couldn't get a control of him, so they just let it go, and they started focusing on other people that they can get a no vote on. And the fact that Thomas Massie was able to push that through was like the biggest middle finger to the Republicans and Trump, seeing that both of them just wanted the stories to die. Not saying that they were complicit in it, but I'm gonna be real with you, them just wanting the Epstein list or the Epstein files just to go away, them not wanting to release it. Look, I'm not saying that they're doing that because they're involved. I'm just saying that, well, them doing that, it kind of just shown that they just wanted to either just push past it and don't really give it too much air, because it was taking away a lot of attention from Trump's success. It was. But here's the problem, though. We should care about, billionaires possibly trafficking little girls. Like, we should care about that. We should care about the fact that government officials was involved in this in some way, shape, or form. We should care about that. But for some reason, the Republican just said, oh, get over it, look past it, be happy that we got these files. But here's the thing. I mean, people who actually care about truth, they want all of it, all 6 million, not just the 3 million you guys decided that you wanted to release. And that's always going to be a problem with me and other people who's in MAGA, is the fact that, well, yeah, we kind of had to turn the arm of the administration to get these out.
people spend millions of dollars and had the president of the United States after him. And second, he worked with me to stop this war in Iran. So for taking on the Epstein class and taking on war, he basically lost his seat. And I admire his courage in taking those positions.
All right, well, let's talk about some other issues. President Trump, as I just discussed, was facing Republican pushback this week over what the president referred to as an anti-weaponization fund to pay people who claim to have been unfairly targeted by the government. Here's how Vice President J.D. Vance defended the $1.8 billion fund this week. Take a listen.
Anybody can apply for it. Republicans can apply for it. Democrats can apply for it. As you know, the president of the United States has pardoned a number of Democrats who he felt were actually subject to this lawfare. I mean, if Hunter Biden wants to apply for this particular fund, he is welcome to.
The vice president says this should be bipartisan. What is your reaction to what the vice president had to say?
You know, I feel sorry for J.D. Vance. I mean, they're trotting him out to defend policies he knows are defiant of common sense. They're trotting him out to defend the Epstein class when he actually was one of the advocates for releasing the files. They're trotting him out to defend this war in Iran when his whole career he was against these wars. And now they're trotting him out to defend Donald Trump stealing taxpayer dollars to give to his political allies. I mean, I'm sure if J.D. Vance was asked in honesty, he'd say, why aren't we giving the—
Well, in fairness, it can be used by either Democrat or Republican. It just depends on if they were done wrong by the government in their eyes. Like, look, Comey and Letitia James can also apply for this, or but make their case for this and possibly get compensated. So we can't sit here and say it's just for his cronies. Or just for the Republicans. That's kind of misframing it. Like, no, actually, both Republicans and Democrats could both pretty much get in on this, pretty much make their case and get compensated.
This as a check to people whose gas prices are going up.
But it just looks bad, though. Because I'm be like, look, there's already a system for this. Like, you could just sue the government. Why you got to set aside funds for it? It does have that duplicitous feel once you're setting aside funds for what? Basically what can be described as a class action lawsuit against the government with funds already set to the side for it. And that's a bit weird.
But for his own ambition, he has been so convoluted that he's basically become the spokesperson for very unpopular policies.
Well, let me ask you about one of the big headlines for Democrats this week. Of course, the DNC autopsy report. It was commissioned by the DNC. It was shelved, and then it was finally released amidst a lot of pressure and pushback. We're going to talk about what was not in the report in just a moment. But first, I want to talk about what was in the report. The author writes, quote, "At times, it seems Democrats are trying to win arguments while Republicans are focused on winning elections. Democrats operate in an ecosystem defined by reason, even in cycles when the electorate is defined by rage." Do you believe Democrats need to completely overhaul how they think about running and winning elections, Congressman?
Yeah.
I don't think we need to give up reason. I think more Americans probably want reasoned debate in this country, but we do need to recognize that the staff.
No, this is what you guys need to recognize. You need to recognize that your policies just can't be F Trump. F Trump is not a plan. You actually got to have something that's, I guess, better than what he's doing. All right, good. Look, think about it like this. If you don't agree with what Trump's doing with tariffs, then give us a better idea on how to tax the rich then and how to get them to do what we want and work for the American people. Instead of just sitting there lying about tariffs and misinforming people about them, why don't you give us a better argument for tariffs then? So how are we going to get jobs back here? How are we going to get these corporations start working for the American people instead of shipping their jobs overseas? If you don't have an answer, shut the fuck up. That's what kills me about Dems. They sit there and cry, bitch, and moan, but have no better plan.
Status quo has failed, that this is a system that has created massive inequality, that the economy is lopsided and unfair, and it's not working for many working class and middle class Americans. And
what's your plan? Because like I said, and here's the thing, we're not even getting Donald Trump's plan all the way through. You guys are effing with the tariffs, so we can't even get that all the way through. Donald Trump has completely abandoned his economic agenda for war with Iran. So, okay, great. What's your plan? What are you going to do that's better than what Trump is doing or that Trump couldn't even commit to? Like, give us a plan, but it just can't be, oh, look what Trump is doing. That's bad. That's not giving us anything. That's just you pointing out Trump's mistakes, and that's not giving us a plan here. You just can't keep running off F Trump because nobody's going to trust your leadership. Going to put you in office, you're going to be there like, what do we do now that we're in office? Oh, I guess we're just going to do absorbent amount of spending. And that didn't fix shit. So really, what's your plan? Because don't say it's going to be this Biden plan because y'all really not going to get no votes.
Too often we've run status quo establishment candidates who have been unwilling to call out an economic and political system that has failed.
Well, the report also found, quote, the White House did not effectively support Vice President Harris over 3.5 years to improve her standing before the candidate switch. You served, of course, on the Biden-Harris 2024 National Advisory Board. Does that ring true to you?
Well, look, I have great admiration for Vice President Harris. I campaigned my heart out for her. I do believe that in retrospect, had she been in Pennsylvania, Michigan, Ohio, talking about the economy and been the lead for the president's economic policies.
Nah, I mean, Ro Khanna, bro, that is not smart. So you wanted her to be on the campaign trail talking about the economy that she was a part of the Biden administration. She was the VP. And, affordability and cost of living went up under them. So her talking about affordability and cost of living, yeah, unless she had a real plan, she probably shouldn't even mention it. And here's the thing, even if she didn't want to mention it, the last thing she should have said was, oh, don't worry, I'm just give you the same thing to Biden. Yeah. She kind of sunk her whole talking point about the economy. And let's be real, she couldn't even articulate. She can barely articulate anything, but she wouldn't be even able to articulate an economic plan.
The Inflation Reduction Act, the American Rescue Plan, the CHIPS Act, perhaps we would have done better. But we need to look forward now. And looking forward, we need to have an economic message that actually is talking to the working class folks who have been shafted and that's taking on a system that has been rigged.
Congressman, as you know, a number of Democrats are now calling on DNC Chair Ken Martin to resign. Do you agree that he should resign, that it's time for new leadership for the DNC?
No, Ken Martin is a Paul Wellstone Democrat. There are two things he's done that I actually agree with. One, he said no super PACs in Democratic primaries. We shouldn't have what happened to Thomas Massie happening in our primaries, where we have all this money coming in Democratic fights. And two, Ken has said we shouldn't have super delegates picking our nominee. So for those two reasons, I agree with him. Now, could he have handled this autopsy better? Absolutely. He has said he should have. Should he be working more with state parties to make sure they're funded into 26 and 28? Absolutely. But I don't believe he should resign.
All right, let me ask you finally about the Supreme Court. After its ruling limiting voting rights, you called for term limits for justices and for expanding the court from 9 to 13 seats once Democrats regain full power of the government. But you have seen this redistricting back and forth play out. If Democrats expand the court, if they were to have control of both chambers, what's to stop Republicans from doing it once the tables turn again?
Kristen, first we need to talk more about this Supreme Court decision. This is a Dred Scott court. They have engaged in the fastest rollback of Black political rights since Rutherford Hayes ended Reconstruction in 1877. One third of African Americans in the Congress's seats are being threatened. They're doing it to Jim Clyburn in South Carolina, to Benny Thompson in Mississippi, and across Alabama and the South. And we are not speaking up loudly enough, strongly enough against a court that is really rolling back civil rights. I do believe if you combine term limits on the court and the expansion of the court, where every president gets 2 appointees, you would depoliticize this, you would stand up for the Voting Rights Act, and you would stand up for basic American democracy. But this is an assault on John Lewis, Dr. King, and the civil rights legacy, and the Democratic Party needs to run against this court and call this court out.
All right, Congressman Ro Khanna, thank you as always for being here. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Kristen.
And still ahead, growing GOP pushback on President Trump's agenda.